you guys are like me, you're addicted to your pond and you're always wondering, how can I take my pond to its fullest potential? I'm gonna show you all the different enhancements you can do right now. Hey, it's Brian with Team Aquascape, and I promised you I would show you all kinds of things that we can add on to our pond. And I'm sitting here in the Aqua Gardens, right? And as I walk around the Aqua Gardens, I'm constantly looking at it and saying, what could I add on here? And what could I add on there? How could I make this pond better? And even today, on this beautiful spring day, as the pear tree is dropping all of these flower petals in the ground, I think, what does this pond need? And it needs a little stronger circulation. And so I'm gonna show you guys how we actually make this pond circulate a little bit easier, a little bit more efficiently. So you can see this pond's actually got some pretty heavy circulation. We have jets all over the place on this pond. There's jets here, there's jets there. There's a couple over here that seem to be clogged, and things are getting stagnant in here. Now this time of year, you guys are dealing with the same stuff. You've got all your flowering trees, from your magnolias to your red bloods, to your pear trees, the crab apples, et cetera, et cetera. Even some of those other trees like oaks and maples are dropping the helicopter seeds and so on and so on. So this time of year can be almost as brutal as the fall. Just so much debris falling in the pond. And we need to get this stuff off the water surface before it gets waterlogged, falls to the bottom of the pond, causing a big old mess. But one thing I would add to a pond, if I didn't have adequate circulation, would be one of these Powerheads. Now these things were developed a few years ago. The way it works is it's really just a fan. Water gets sucked through the back of this. There's a propeller inside and it forces this. Now this thing's equivalent to like a 3,000 gallon per hour pump. But what's nice is it's just run off of low voltage cable. The easiest way to do this is run a home run all the way back to a larger transformer. Remember, it uses about 40 watts, so it's gonna pull a little bit more energy, but nowhere near the energy of a pump. Let me show you exactly how strong this thing is. So if I were putting this in the pond, I'd find the nice little cove, kind of a dead area of the pond, but you can see how much circulation this is adding to the pond back in here. It's also got this flexible head here. So if I needed to change the angle, I can kind of change that angle, pushing more at the surface, really pushing all those flower petals out of this area, back into the main water column where it gets pulled back into our intake bay. These things are also great winter de-icers. So when you think of buying it for the spring and for the fall and trying to help circulate some of that water and move that debris across the top of your pond, it works as a great winter de-icer, keeping a giant hole open in the ice as that water temperature gets lower and lower. So anyways, I love the Powerhead. I love the Powerhead so much that I actually have 3 of them on my pond. And the reason I have so many is because when I built my pond, we didn't have some of the technology that we do nowadays. And if you just want to add some extra circulation without having to redo a whole lot of plumbing, I think the Powerheads are a great addition to the pond. So next, let's move into some of the newer technology that's been around for the last couple of years. Here's our dosing system. It's basically a IV drip for your pond. So instead of having to go out there and measure exactly how much water treatment I have to put in my pond, I can put in this dosing system and it'll automatically add the necessary water treatment. Here we're choosing to actually bury this thing. I didn't want to see that container sitting up out of the ground. You can mount it underneath the deck. You can put it just in a flower bed. Here we're gonna dig it into the ground and bury it a little bit. It would be very similar to burying half of a 5-gallon bucket. It's about 2 gallons, 2.5 gallons, someplace in there. So if you can picture burying half of a 5-gallon bucket, I would suggest burying it and getting it out of sight. But digging the hole is definitely the hardest part of this entire thing. Next, we just take the low voltage cable, run it over to a transformer, plug that transformer in, and then we're gonna bury these, what I will call the IV lines. These are just little 1/4-inch flexible tubing that comes out of the dosing system that's gonna actually drip the water treatments back in your pond. We're using the XT dosing system, and the XT dosing system comes with the capability of running 2 different water treatments at the same time. So here we are hooking up the stuff in the inside. We're just hooking up some more hoses to a little tiny pump. That pump is gonna suck the water out of our
water treatment bag into the pump and then push it back out into the pond. Now the second one is not included. You would choose to add that on. You could just do one large water treatment container down in there. Here we're choosing to do like 2, like I talked about before. So we're hooking up the 2. You can see that there's easily enough space for the 2 containers. Now we're gonna set the dosing system little monitor there to how much we want the water treatment to come out. So I love the dosing system. Adding water treatments to your pond is just such an important thing. If you're not adding the necessary bacteria to break down fish waste, to break down organic stuff that's down on the bottom of the pond, eventually you start getting this sludge. The more healthy bacteria you have growing in the pond, the healthier and healthier your pond's gonna be. So instead of trying to remember every single time you put that stuff in, just have the dosing system do it for you. It makes pond living so easy. All right, next let's talk about my favorite addition to any pond. It's almost a necessity for a pond, and that would be underwater lights. What I like about the lights so much is it gives you 2 ponds. It gives you a daytime pond and a nighttime pond. And for me, I like my pond so much more at night, and those lights come on and it's just a different world at night. The ambiance it creates in a backyard, and I think it's just something about like the still of the night. If you put the lights in just right, a lot of times you can highlight landscape, highlight the side of a house, often getting those shimmery, wavy marks all over the canopy of a tree. And so you can really do different things and make your yard just feel magical at night. We've got such a huge variety. 1 watt uplights, we've got 1 watt spotlights. I love using these lights to highlight waterfalls, tuck them back behind waterfalls, little accent lights. We've got 3 watt lights that are generally used in the pond underneath the water to kind of light up bigger areas. We have colored lights. And now even more exciting are these new 8 watt wide angled lights. These lights are really making it simple for me to light up a bigger area in the pond. And what I like about them so much, the way they light up the water feature reduces how many 3 watt lights I need to use. So I can usually put 1 or 2 of these into a pond and it light up a massive area. Let's go a little bit into how to install these lights and just how easy it can be to add on to any existing pond. All right, I always like to tuck a little extra cord around the light, and the main reason I do this is it gives me some flexibility if I want to move the light a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, over to another side of the waterfall, because we're not going to know exactly what it looks like until we turn the lights on. Now here you see me doing something kind of against what I just said and foaming it in. But after enough experience, I know that this light is gonna stay right here and I'm probably not gonna have to move it. So I like to foam it in just using our normal waterfall foam, and it'll just help hold it in place. Now you can see we're just taking a little bit of moss to help hide that. You can also just kind of strategically put some rock and gravel around it to hold it in place, which is a little bit more forgiving than the foam, but the foam will make sure that it really locks in place and it's not gonna wash away or get bumped around from kids or animals or anything else. A little bit of moss, a little bit of gravel over the top of it, and we've got that whole thing hidden up, and that's gonna look just absolutely stunning. The other key thing you wanna do with the lights, when you're thinking of kind of laying out your lights, one of our rules is always make sure that that light is facing away from the viewing area. You never want that light hitting you in the face when you're sitting on the patio or the deck feeding your fish. So always strategically kind of put that light in an area where you won't see the light actually shining back at you. So here we put the light aiming at the waterfalls and away from the viewing area. After that, we're just gonna take this over to one of our quick connectors, bring that over to our 3-way splicer. We have different connectors. We have a 6-way connector, and we can easily add more and more lights if we need to. Over to the transformer, we have got another quick connector, and we'll just splice it into that, and off we go. Just that easy. 1, 2, 3, and we're done. Pond all lit up. That's got some of the 8 watt lights built right into the wall down there. You can see the waterfall all lit up. It just looks stunning. All right, last but not least, fountain bowls. Fountain bowls have actually been around a long time. We used to call them patio ponds or patio bowls, and they were designed for people that just didn't quite have the space to put in a big pond, didn't have the real estate, lived in a condo, lived in an apartment, didn't have the budget to pay for big ponds. But we discovered a long time ago that we could adapt these things, notch them out, plumb them up, and turn them into what we would call fountain bowls. Recently, in the last year, we've been testing these products plastics, and we've been able to turn them into a filter. So these fountain bowls are now turned into filters at the same time. And a 40-inch fountain bowl is equivalent to about the same amount of filtration as a 2,500 biofalls. And so what's nice about these is we can now add them to the edge of a pond and greatly increase the filtration without needing enormous pumps, without needing big berm work to do waterfalls, without needing another biofalls. It just adds a lot to it. And I love the way these fountain bowls sit on the edge of the pond and add a whole nother degree of elegance to the edge of the pond. So we're gonna walk you through step by step on how we're gonna add one of these new fountain bowls to the edge of an existing pond. All right, first thing we wanna do, figure out where this is gonna go. Now this particular pond, we have a bunch of options. And what would really make sense is to try to tie it in maybe someplace in this stream. I'm also looking to the left side of the waterfall, thinking it could go there, but it might compete a little bit with the waterfall. If I put it someplace in the stream or I put it to the left of that waterfall, running the plumbing is gonna be a pain in the butt. I'm gonna have to move it along the edge of these junipers here. I'm gonna cut a bunch of roots. I'm gonna have to be down on my stomach, digging the trench. It's just gonna be a pain. But I think aesthetically, the best place for the fountain bowl is gonna be over here just to the left of this skimmer box. And now I start thinking about the tools I'm gonna need. We're gonna get our fountain bowl. It comes in a couple different colors. I'm gonna need a shovel. I may or may not need a bib liner. I'm probably gonna need a couple buckets of gravel. I'm gonna need a level. I'm gonna need a chunk of plumbing. And then of course, the filter add-on kit that goes to the bowl. I'm also gonna need a small little pump. Once I've got all the necessary tools and equipment, I'm gonna start doing some of the prep work. I'm gonna move some of these ground covers because I'm gonna use it later. I'll put those off to the side. I want to expose the liner. Luckily here, when we installed this pond, we had a lot of extra liner. So I'm gonna expose that liner, pull it out tight, and dig out behind it a little bit for the plumbing. We're putting everything in 5-gallon buckets because it's starting to rain on us a little bit, and I wanna just kind of keep things nice and clean and not create a big giant muddy mess. I've located the bowl. I wanna position the bowl, make sure it's level, and then very importantly, position it to a point the customer is still gonna see it from the edge of the patio here. He often sits over in this chair. So I position it, make sure that there's plenty of liner, make sure he's gonna see it from his favorite chair, and then I'm gonna drill this out. I wanna drill this out now because it's easier to drill it out before I've installed it, just because I can get a better angle on it. Now, I like to use a 1.25 1.5 hole saw bit, come right into the side. That'll give me a nice deep channel and give me the horsetail fall ultimately I'm looking for. I'm gonna cut a chunk of pipe and do some miscellaneous plumbing work here. We go ahead and use, in the bottom of the bowl, we've got a fancy rubber bulkhead fitting, and it's surprisingly tight. I was shocked at how watertight this simple fitting is. We're gonna go ahead and put an elbow on there and then run our 1.5 plumbing back from here over to our skimmer box. Of course, the rain shows up right in the middle of all of this. Luckily, this is a pretty small project, and we can keep things covered without getting soaking wet. But I'm gonna go ahead and finish up this plumbing, slip this into the slip elbow fitting, run it over to the back. And now notice how the liner ducks down a little bit here. This could definitely be a leak point. So what I wanna do is make sure that that liner stays nice and tight and the weight of the hose doesn't drag it down. One of the other challenges is we're putting this bowl into a pond that's full of water. It's definitely the hardest way to do it. It would have made a whole lot of sense to go ahead and drain this pond down 8 to 10 inches. We didn't have to work in the water. The bowl wasn't trying to float away. But a quick little trick, I just took a 5-gallon bucket full of rock and gravel, put it in there as a ballast just to kind of hold the bowl in place, while my buddy Jack here anchored the front of it. Once we've got it anchored and it's not going to go anywhere, I'll bring the level in, make sure it's level to side, and leaning just slightly forward, about a quarter bubble on your level. Jack will continue to kind of chalk it up, getting boulders to hold it in place, bring that plumbing back over to the skimmer. We're gonna have to drill a little hole through the skimmer to bring that plumbing, but no big deal. And then here's that part I was talking about with making sure that that pipe doesn't just go underneath. Jack's gonna put a boulder underneath the rock, holding that pipe up high, making sure that that pipe never ever sinks that liner down lower than our water level, because that would definitely be a leak point a year down the road, 2 years down the road, and that rock will hold it in place. Now here I am backfilling everything with gravel, making sure that the bowl is going to sit in tight. The other thing that gravel does is if for some reason the bowl were to get clogged up, meaning like a leaf or a stick or an aquatic plant of sorts were to block up the overflow where the water is coming out of the pipe and cause the whole bowl to overflow over the backhand side, the water will run down the back side of the bowl, hit that gravel vein, and then run back into the pond. So always make sure that you've got a little bit of liner back behind the bowl and you can catch any of that backflow in the event that it were to happen. Then it's as easy as just backfilling the rest of the pipe, putting the soil back over the top. We're going to decorate it a little bit here and there, adding some of that existing landscape, and we'll call it a day. We're going to have to hook up the pipe to the new 800 gallon per hour pump, and there's plenty of real estate inside the skimmer box to put 2 pumps, and so we'll get that done. I bring over some extra gravel, continue to backfill, making sure that that thing is just as stable as can possibly be, and making sure it's a quarter bubble forward. Always double checking the level side to side. After that, we're done. Here I am double checking to make sure that I can catch that spill if any water were to come over the back side of the bowl, and then we're done. We're about ready to turn this thing on. I'm gonna start unboxing the whole filter add-on kit to the 32-inch bowl. First thing you're gonna see are some shelves. Now these shelves were designed for a couple purposes. One, for the filter kit, but if you didn't want to turn in a filter and just wanted to support some aquatic plants sitting in your bowl, this is an easy way to do it. You can buy them one at a time, or with the filter kit you come with 4. The filter kit's gonna support the filter media that sits on top. It comes with a circular bio bag. I'm gonna fill this up with bio balls that come with the kit. I'm gonna put that in first. So I fill that whole thing up with the bio balls. The bio balls are a great additional filter media, whether you're using them for a filter bowl or even for an existing biological filter. They just add a lot of surface area for more and more bacteria to grow. And all biological filters are based kind of off the same concept. Grow as much beneficial bacteria as possible, and you'll have a cleaner pond. Now we're putting the biomedia underneath the filter mat, and then we're gonna come in with gravel over the top. The reason I'm putting the gravel, and some of you guys might be looking at this gravel like, oh my gosh, how are you gonna keep this clean? But it's gonna kind of fill in the voids around the side of the filter mat, really forcing that water to come up through the biomedia and then through the filter mat. I also don't want to see that green mat. And once a year when I clean this thing, we're only talking about cleaning out 1 bucket of gravel, so not a big deal. It just aesthetically looks that much better too. Last thing to do is just hook up the pump. Jack's gonna finish hooking up the pump. He's gonna use a little union fitting. That way if we ever need to disconnect the pump, it's easy to pull off, and then we'll be done. Another way to do this would just be to use a rubber coupling. The low pressure that we're getting off of an 800 gallon per hour pump, a rubber coupling would work just as well. We just had a union with us, so that's what we used. Measuring things up so it fits in there just right. This is actually really simple stuff. It might seem complicated, but it's really not. All right, put everything back inside the skimmer. Let's get our filter mat back in there, put our basket in, open up the weird door, let that water come back in. It's nice having that little latch, so when we're working on stuff, we can actually suck the water down dry and get in there and do some work. And then here we go, let's turn it on, and there's our perfect little horsetail fall. Now when this thing really takes on its fullest potential is when we fill that whole gravel area with aquatic plants. You can fill it with impatiens, you can fill them with potato vines, you can fill it with all different types of aquatic marginal plants like dwarf cattails or pickerel rush or papyrus. The way you decorate it is completely up to you. Hopefully you guys really enjoyed this video. We went over quite a few things, fun things we can add to any existing pond. Let me know if you guys are gonna add any of this stuff to your existing pond. Hopefully you guys have a nice pond season. We'll be back next week with another killer video.